Thank you.
I'll just do that instead.
I'll also stop the share.
Cool.
Everybody's in there anyway.
Okay. Where's my thing? Here. Cool. Yeah, nice. Cool. So let's just drop in all the screens that are relevant from all concepts. So whatever you've sketched out, just either from your own concept or from any one of the ones that you see there that just contextually fit to the individual steps, and just drag them into the individual frames. Even if it's just a part of another concept or something that you think is relevant, just take that and copy it over. And yeah, either place it right inside or underneath. Wait, that was different. looks like pretty much everything is in there, right?
I think so.
Cool. All right, cool. Yeah, then let's just go through it frame by frame. I'll set a timer on like 50 minutes. And then we can work through. So we'll do this in 3 passes, just for anybody who hasn't done this before. Essentially, we want to go through all the screens at once, and then in about an hour, and then repeat and come back to the beginning and go another pass with a little bit more detail, and then a third pass to actually fix everything else that's still left. And for this very first one, it's really just about the very general idea, and try and not get stuck on details, or if you realize that someone else gets stuck on details, mindfully let them know, especially if it's me, because I tend to get stuck on details a lot. And otherwise, let's just try and keep it as the first one as basic as possible, just so we know which content has to go on the individual screens. So starting here with the step designer gets invited to a project and lands on a project page. They can see a lead product design that they want to do because it has compensation and works with a creative director. I would actually also start with a different one beforehand, but I'll just copy a post-it and mark it in a different color, which is, I think we should start with a Discord screen where someone becomes aware of the project actually happening. So where we would see the project originate, like either Discord or email. We can also
something like, hey, we need a user researcher on this project. Do you want to join? This kind of message.
Yeah, something like that. Perfect.
Cool. On this first page, I think the first question for me is, how much information should we put about the project? Should we just abstract it down to a title and then assume that the projects can set up the details of the project somewhere else? Or should we put as much detail as possible?
I think the prior makes sense because, and it's similar to the decision with Colony, I think there are existing tools which lets us write out project details and things like working files and stuff separately. And this is not what this tool is for.
So actually, let me just copy this. So I think like from what you've got in here, we've got the title. Created by, I think makes sense, because then it's always going to have a creator and a profile linked to that. But then with the rest of it, the description and things like that, I don't think and the project start date, I feel like that might restrict the kind of projects that can go in if they have to fill in those details. So from there, it should just link to something else.
Yeah, maybe the description, it can still be there, but just like that could be the link to wherever, you know.
Yeah.
Or how would you link to the actual description?
I would just have a link to project as the only thing, because then it just makes it easier to create a project if I'm an external organization. Maybe
let's keep it as description, because it could be both. Like it could be one sentence, that's enough, but we could also use a link in there.
Cool. Okay. Let's just put it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm just going to use what Vikrant has put it together here because it looks nice now.
Oh, thank you.
Regarding the date, you think that's not useful?
Yeah, because I think that for other projects, if I think about like what we spoke about was before is that it might not necessarily actually fit a project. So it could just be like you could just be using the system to accredit somebody as proof that they've got a role or something like that. And therefore, if you remove things like project date, it just makes it more customizable.
Excuse me, where does this link project lead to?
That would be like an external place, but I think this is like this people can decide on themselves, like what they put into this window.
Cool, makes sense.
I think we can keep it because people could just fill it in as not applicable.
How do you mean, like as a separate field?
The project date, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was about to suggest, because I think the project date is actually quite useful, because if you have a dashboard, you want to estimate when a project starts, potentially as a worker at least.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So I do think that's an important piece, but exactly, it can be left out or even put to the past if you want to say like, hey, this has been completed in the past and I want to accredit someone for that time.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good to me.
Cool.
The next bit I think is where I'm trying to work out the best way to do it, and I think it's a mixture of the two those two. Because I think that you're right with the team showing the different roles and the supported by. I think that's pretty cool. But then there was this kind of idea that you could see the compensation. In mine. Yeah, okay.
Well, I think that, so from my perspective, the most important pieces here are to see who is on there, how much money there would be. I actually, I removed it from here. I had it in an older sketch. And also the breakdown of tasks potentially contextually to the individual person.
That's true. Yeah, okay.
So maybe something what I have split up as schedule, like more like combining that with the team as what you have. So these are the collapsed roles.
Okay.
But you could expand on those.
And you could expand on those. So actually the button to expand them would be apply to collaborate on tasks. And then you could click that and you could see the individual tasks.
Yeah, for example. But the problem there is also, if you're an expert, like this, there also needs to be a distinction for that. So if there is no expert scheduled, then, and that should be the scenario here. So we would have, for instance, we would have facilitation and design, but there's no expert. But for facilitation and design, they would, oh no, and you were saying that both should be able to happen at the same time.
Exactly, yeah. So we know that for the project to run, you have to have these lead people. That's why they're kind of like up here now like that. But you could also have people to start applying. So, or another way to do it actually is like it is now. And let me just copy what I'm thinking. So you could have lead team and then collaborating team. I'm just doing this quickly. And then in the collaborating team, that's where instead of it's then tasks, a task outline instead.
Yeah, but I think that's not communicating the right model, because you're not in a collaborating team. You are with the team, with a person. And you have to be part of the facilitation or part of the design or part of the user research. That's your team. So I think that the tasks should be split down by the individual. I think it becomes more a detail problem, how to communicate that you can apply as an expert, or like for all of the tasks, or just for a few of them.
Agree.
So we might have to come up with a way to show it in like an expanded way, where because that interface is going to be seen by collaborators as well as experts. unless you would like, yeah, no, it wouldn't make sense to filter them as well, because there's also the scenario that you're an expert in facilitation, but you actually want to work on design. So you need to be able to see kind of both ways.
Yep.
Wait a second, aren't experts already selected by the creative director firsthand? Or in this scenario, it looks like the experts are also applying for the project.
So it can happen both ways. Technically, and that's currently the way, is that the creative directors are sending out requests to the experts, and the experts then confirm, or there's like a lot of personal conversation. But the idea is that that personal conversation can actually be removed or abstracted if people have a clear, like, either they might receive a notification like, here's a project that fits your badge, and then none of that conversation needs to happen, because then the expert can be like, oh cool, I'm already automatically invited, and then you can go and apply. And then we have the selection process of the creative director, who can go, out of all these like 3 people who have time, I'll choose to work with you.
I'm pretty happy on that screen, Andre, because we kind of, as a basic outline,
yeah, let's go
move on.
Let's go further. Yeah, and then later we can, later we'll have to maybe like create an additional version of one of these where it would look like expanded and also look through the details.
Exactly, yeah. But for me, the layout makes sense. It's kind of like the core roles, the main person who's going to lead that role, and then you can get tucked down into the tasks.
Sounds good. So then the person would apply and they would get a confirmation, for example.
Yes.
So here's an example of a message. Congratulations, you've been selected for that project.
We've put those balloons in. That's great.
Yeah, we should definitely use a lot of illustrations at some point. But first, it doesn't matter, but like, yeah, just looking at how Rob liked the pickle rig in the type form, that was kind of funny.
Maybe we just make it Rick and Morty themed, the whole thing.
The whole thing, yeah. That would be actually funny.
Just going to some copyright issues along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be great. It's a really cool tool, but unfortunately, the project failed because they used unlicensed Rick and Morty material. Is anything from the conversation, when they get confirmed, important in that email, aside from you have been selected? Yes.
We need to encourage them to come back into the system to get into the collaborator, to choose a collaborator. Otherwise, they're not going to click it.
Yeah, very good point.
So there needs to be a reason to click that and then start choosing a collaborator.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the main CTA, basically.
Ah, yeah, cool. You're designing the email, not the next page. Sorry, that's.
Oh yeah, the next page is like, oh, where are you?
So I thought this page here was just they can see collaborator applications who want to split tasks of product design. So yeah, I think you are.
No, that was because this one is actually like this post-it was above that screen. I don't know.
Yeah, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, they apply and get approved, abstracted. Yeah, exactly. They get notified and land on the back of the project page. Perfect. Yes.
I didn't select everything. Let me move everything along. There we go. I think we just need like a Y to this.
Oh yeah, so yeah, you can earn a bonus and you can help. So the primary thing is actually help deep work grow, because that is something that might not always be necessary. So I would say help deep work grow and earn a bonus for mentoring.
Yeah. I'll mentor others.
Yeah. I'm just gonna edit this.
Reorder it.
Yeah.
What work and earn a bonus? Sorry, something got abstracted there. I'm not sure. Doesn't no longer make sense. Help deep work grow, work and earn a bonus.
Oh, that work is there for no reason.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. Then for the next screen, it makes sense for them to land back on the project page, or should it be like a new page where it's particularly about just seeing who's applied?
Let me just think real quick. So there are there's these two options, or I think to choose who applied, that should still be somehow contextually close to the actual project page, because
yes,
it's going to disappear once the project's gone. So it either should be on the page itself, but it might not be good enough because there's a lot going on that screen potentially already, although maybe not. So I would say either on the bottom or in the lightbox, and maybe they would land. What do you think about appending a list, like a very basic list, as we talked about yesterday? So like a basic list that features just the minimal information. So like a name and potentially the amounts of badges that they have. And then you can click into an individual and that would pop up in a lightbox. Although,
that sounds good.
So there's, I mean, I'm a bit biased because I've already thought about this and I sketched it in my concept. So I might be wrong on this. And I really like the idea of allowing them to look at the tasks that someone has. Oh, actually, that could be part of the short detail page then. So that's like, what do you think if we would, like you're putting this together. So where it says 15 badges, applying for 5 tasks.
Yeah.
So these 2 details are on the short application along with a comment.
Yep.
And then when you click on confirm, you see the lightbox, and then it goes more into the detail. But you can also click on their face here and go into their profile. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it's like clicking on them goes to their profile, and then confirm Vikram goes to that next screen. And it's just when I'm sorting through these, I just want to quickly get the most relative information. I'm just going to write that out. So go record. It's kind of like badges. I probably want to know last project and level.
Yeah, right. That's also good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's no level really.
Yeah. So, let me think about how I would assess somebody. If they were completely new, then I would just want to go to their
profile.
Straight away. Yeah. If they previously worked in deep work, I'd want to see what badges they had.
So what if you couldn't see all their badges at once?
I'd want to see their like top level badge.
So that means that we would have to think about how to structure the badges by difficulty.
But we already have that, don't we? No, we don't really.
Not really. So it's like it's a voluntary thing, and it might not be applicable to every scenario, because sometimes you might be like, I mean, it's super subjective, but also the task could be very, very similarly difficult.
Yeah, okay. Actually, that's just a good point, because we used to have like it was as levels, but we no longer have that. It's just task, I think. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, correct.
So now in deep work we only have essentially just within like a product designer 2 levels, either expert or collaborator, correct?
Exactly. Although I do think, and this is something that I also sketched out in the profile later, but I'll get to that later. I do think that it's possible to create sub-stages of difficulty and sub-levels, but I'm not sure if it's like, I think it's going to be too complicated to show it here.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
What could work is showing it similarly to how Discord does it. So you just like hover on this. That's probably too complicated for first. Vikrant, I think you wanted to say something now.
Yeah, so you guys are already like rating the collaborator on the basis of parameters like did they save your time or did they over deliver. So there is always this rating system, right? The expert rates the collaborator out of 10.
Right, right.
So you guys can just average out the entire rating and put it across in a like a number like out of 10 or something like that, instead of
5.
Yeah, like something like that.
That's true. Uber also does it, I think. So when you, yeah, that's a good one. I looked at some screens for the taxi driver app, and you basically the information that you see is the track that they want to drive, their photo, and like the score that gets collected over time. I'm not a really big fan of numerical scores, but maybe that is something that that makes sense.
We can just assign or give medals, like the top tier creators get gold, silver, and then like bronze, something like that, if you don't want to go with numbers.
Yeah, so it's like,
yeah, it's something like if someone is looking for a beginner or someone who doesn't have any like budget.
I'm not a big fan of that kind of like peer review system like that. I think like we're moving away from a skill-based review system to a peer to an assessment-based system, and I don't think that's like the goal of it. Because the numbers are meaningless because it depends who reviewed it and who gave those reviews, and I think it could just
well, they're not entirely meaningless. I think there's 2 components. One of them is really the intangible quality assurance that you have to go through in detail, and then there's one that's kind of a rating system. Although, again, I agree. I don't find the rating system really representative because it's extremely subjective, and it can put some people to a real disadvantage.
Exactly. Put it another way, is like that information actually isn't going to help me with the goal of this screen. I'm imagining that I'm the lead product designer on the project, and I'm trying to pick the best person to help me. And basically, I'm always trying to pick the person who's got like the most skills and experience, not who's got the best review from other people.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about doing that by just saying how many badges from deep work that person in general has. Because at least like, so you say like in total, there's like 25 badges for 25 tasks. That person has like 8 out of 25.
Okay, yeah, and then I know actually that would really help because I know that they've done those tasks before, and then that means that straight away that I'm gonna pick them. Yeah. Okay.
And you can also go deeper and see in their account exactly which they already know
into their profile. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that also introduce some bias? Because you can have a lot of badges, but they might represent some smaller tasks. So I'm just referring back to the idea we discussed about having aggregate score of reputation. So you can complete a lot of things inside the work or externally that can also be counted and can actually, like if you're just joining, that's the only thing you have. And then for simplicity, for the project leader simplicity, there might be a single score representing skill level, but also a more blown up profile page that actually shows. So your proficiency is divided into skills, and then each skill has a spectrum or different levels. Ideally, when inviting a collaborator, you want to look at those, but well, just for filtering, if there's a lot of application, you can have a single score for.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of the single score, we would have to spend extra time. I mean, I would actually try and do that in the future to look at exactly whether there is a way to quantify something more specifically. I think just for the sake of time and to get a first version, it's probably enough to say how many tasks that person is able to complete from the deep work organization, or like, let's say from the same organization that the project is from. And then you have like this one data point that's only relevant to the project that just gives you kind of a hint and also motivates you or encourages you to go deeper into the profile and then review everything in a bit more detail. That's at least how I see it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have quite a lot of thoughts on that, but I think I go more towards what Andrei just said. So from my experience, usually when people have other people applying for jobs, they look for simplest heuristics. So either you saw them work and you did work with them already, or you go ask your trusted people
That's a good point.
Who you know that they have really good skills.
Yeah.
So if you think about it down the road, it will be probably that you will see how many of the tasks out of the possible tasks they did, how much work they did in that organization, and most of all, who gave them reviews and what kind of reviews they had. Because reviews from people you don't know and who have low skills don't really matter. Would be great to have one collapsed, like heuristic, but I think there's too much nuance. So it might be an interesting experiment to try to collapse it, but in reality, it's much more complex, especially with peer-based reviews.
But the peer-based thing is actually a really great point, because it's an interesting data point, which relationships that person has with other people and who have they worked with before. And it could be, I mean, it is definitely also a what do you call it? Like a motivator if you have already worked with that person before. So that's information that might be interesting to show something like what is the person capable of, but also who have they worked with before.
Yeah, that's super helpful, at least in my networks that I saw in terms of sifting through applicants. There are downsides, because later on you realize that you keep on working with the same people, because just trying to check 15 people you don't know and you never worked with and go through their portfolios, ratings, and projects, it's just a lot of overhead.
True. Yeah.
But within the context of deep work, I would probably lean at this point to something like how many tasks are they capable of doing, and if they can do all of them and they did that in deep work and they were not kicked out, they're probably good enough.
Good point. Yeah, true. Well, let's.
Do you plan to rely?
Sorry.
Do you plan to only rely on peer reviews and not any other reputation sources?
Both. So for the profile page, definitely also others. I think I think what would be good to test here, and thanks Charlie for putting all this together. I think this is exactly what would make sense. So to just have a very high level example of like, what are your like badges? Okay, whatever. But like all of this looks great. So like they're either top badge or second badge or whatever, maybe just like how many badges they have in total, and then filtering, sorting, and just for the sake of the prototype, we don't have to put anything else, because we can ask our user testers what they think these filters would filter by. That would give us a little bit of information on what else would be necessary. And then later in the profile, we should, so then let's say the expert gets interested in reviewing them in detail, and then in a profile of that person, they can connect also other services and other tools to provide more in-depth data about their profile. I would say it's just difficult to put them right now already on the little tile, on the preview tile, because we first of all don't know which of these are going to be most relevant and make most sense, and also users can switch on and off, which they show and which they make part of their profile. Hope that makes sense.
I'm super happy with that, just because that actually, the fact that they would be able to write a little message and that would show there as well. Like if it was somebody new, they would link to, they'd say something like, I've been designing for 10 years, DeFi applications. Of course, nobody's ever done that, but that's enough. And it's Vikrant who's doing all these pretty details. Thank you so much. These are really cool.
Nice, Vikrant. Yeah. Thank you.
Also Michael, I guess.
Oh, Michael as well. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
Whatever name I say, I'm going to get it wrong.
Or the deep work expert, whoever that is.
Should we move on to the next screen just so we don't get, then we can come back and
get
that a little bit more ironed out.
Checking out details of an applicant. So I wonder if we should keep with, so what are we assuming, that they would first check which tasks they exactly want to apply for, or should we go and let them look into the actual profile first and then go back?
I think the flow would be to, based on what we discussed, would actually be to go to the profile next. Okay. And then I would go back if I think about it, because there's not quite enough information, and I just want to check that I'm definitely selecting the right person.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Then let's just move this to the side. Just gonna move it here. Although, that's there. Okay, and then going to the profile. Okay, so this is going to be a beast. Now we'll have to see what we can make it. What we can put it there. Okay, so we have on the very top the name. I love that Vikrant and I have the same. Same person. So right, let's see. I think probably
there's also the layout that I did, which is just a little bit different. I'm not saying that the content is right at all in it in any way, but it was just to kind of like suggest if we wanted like a funky layout rather than something more traditional.
Right. That can actually also work. So I decided on, so I can just quickly share my ideas on this, because I thought I iterated on this quite a lot. And we have, first of all, on the top, something that's big. We have the name and something to get in touch with, because that could be the preferred mode of the individual to be talked to, because they can have millions messaging apps. Then we have a section for the main skills, and the main skills are the one that are hosted on Deep Work. So things like the Deep Work, but also here's like whatever, Craft 19 or Block Science, whatever.
Perfect.
And then we have a section for the additional reputation that they can add secondarily. So that would be something like the experience points from metagame, colony reputation for the individual, source credit reputation, because that is a different system of quantifying someone's reputation, and you can decide which of those you want to show here.
Okay.
And then below that,
just one comment there. I think at some point you will have a lot of those, so it's not just
I agree.
Forcing. And actually none of those, maybe colony, but again, colony only computes closed, basically satellite reputation. So none of those is actually a reputation scoring model. And if you think about the newcomer, they won't have any badges, right? On the platform, because they just joined, but they might have a lot of external sources. So just like whatever thing I think the value of the not the project management aspect, but the protocol itself is that no matter what organization you were before, you can create a profile and have a single score or like very compact overview of all your experience and skills, basically. It is a bit, it is hard to build technically, but there are a few details. And just from the UX perspective, I think having that concise overview of prior skills and competencies is super useful. Even just
I agree.
Drop any vertical.
Can you explain to me, just so I understand, what you mean by prior overview? Is it just like one overall score, like a number, or?
So not necessarily a number, but let's say, so I'm not very good in like understanding what the competence of designer is. I can use engineer example. So as an engineer, you have your GitHub, you have your metagame source create, you have your on-chain activity, deploys of smart contracts, calls of smart contracts across different chains. You have your Stack Overflow, like there's 50 different data sources that you can actually use today to score an engineer. You can compute a single score. It will be super simple, but it won't be deep. But what would be useful for an employer, or I'm thinking like someone giving a grant or someone hiring a freelancer or someone who's hiring a full-time employee, what they would love to see is a profile split into skills. So I have my Solidity skills, my Kubernetes skills, my interpersonal skills, my like 20 skills that you usually see on the job description. That's what hiring managers or project leaders are interested in. Yeah. And the same it's not an easy job, but the same can be done over time. It can be iterated for any profession, not even digital necessarily. So some of that comes from peer review, like soft skills. You cannot really assess them like from GitHub. But some of them you can just parse blockchain and see how good are those people with specifically working on, do they mostly deploy NFT or DeFi constructs? Do they use Solidity or Viper? So a lot of data that is really useful.
Yep. I agree. So I think that these are all, just a second.
To me, that all fits into under like what Andre's got as main skills. So where he's got one which says Deep Work Studio, I'd actually adapt that a little bit further and say it's Deep Work Studio Product Designer, and they could have another one which is Deep Work Studio Facilitator.
Wait, let me explain that in a second, because that's a bit more complicated. So I think, to Stepan's point, the different types of quantifying reputation, I think there are a lot of approaches already out there, and I can see it seems like many teams are trying to work out the best way to do it. And I think they will eventually kind of compete, and it will be more subjective. So I would expect that rather than having like a CV that shows your skills that has been or that you have written in there, or like your LinkedIn page where other people have endorsed you with a skill, I think that's actually one potential reputation quantifier. But I think there will be many different approaches to this, and every individual will have to choose the one that they think best represents their current abilities. And from how I see it, they will basically make a choice on like which of these things to actually show. And could be in the future also like Twitter could be like their Twitter, follower count could also be part of how they perceive their identity. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of clustered it up. And I think maybe we're talking about the same thing as well.
I think it's a huge opportunity, because eventually nothing exists today that allows you to do that. So all of the like source scrap is not a universal reputation. It's just one of the data points, which is super useful, and a lot of people using it. But I see a lot of opportunity in that. I think what we discussed in day one, just the protocol that allows you to combine that. And yes, reputation is always subjective. It's just the definition of reputation. But if you have different models, or if you can build your own model, like as a Deep Work Studio, you build your own model, what you're interested in people who are joining, and then you use it, and other companies or DAOs can even subscribe and use the same model.
Well, I think
so. Yeah.
I think it's going to be mutual. So I think on one hand, we can definitely kind of steer them into choosing something, but I also think that individuals should have the choice of what they would like to show.
Of course, yeah, you can always hide because it's data. It's stored with you. It's encrypted by your key. So
right, exactly. That's true. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Well. Yeah. Okay. So I think, yeah, maybe we can think later about like how to kind of summarize them all, or combine them into something overarching. For the main skills, so the way that I thought about those is that you can also work for different organizations, and you will have different skills at different organizations. And in this screen, I would assume that you would be like a product design expert at deep work, but there's also like these rectangles, these little icons with an image on them. These are different expert badges. So you can you can level those up, fill those up, and then once it's done, you're an expert. And so you can be like a beginner, you have few tasks, few badges from deep work. You can also have a few badges from a restaurant because you've worked at a restaurant, and that's kind of showing here. And so whenever one of these is kind of full and you've done all of them, then it shows up as full.
Okay.
And then this is kind of the other part. If you want to go even deeper, then you have this screen that I have on the right hand side. So let's say you click on the deep work main skill, and then you have the whole breakdown of the entire skill tree as it's been designed by the organization, where you have like the product design, you have user research, and there you have the details on what exactly was that task, when was it completed, which project was that, who was it attested by. So you kind of go deeper and deeper the more details you want to know, but you don't have to go that deep if you like, okay, the amount of reputation and these like skills are enough for me to make a choice. But if you're interested in like, what exactly did they,
I have two comments on that additional screen. One, I think it's like, it's getting very, very complex for the version for us to build this, but that shouldn't be a hindrance in the future of it. But the main point I think is that there's some really important information in there, which is the project and attested by. Like I think that's too abstracted from your sketch.
Right.
That's actually information that I'd probably be looking for.
Right.
On the previous screen.
But you'd have to, so because of the complexity or because of the amount of data that you would have from different skills and different organizations, you'd need some kind of filter. So essentially I wanted to have like one screen, which is a very rough overview. And then almost like you filter in, and then you look at what exactly interests you.
That's true. I think I'm looking at maybe from the perspective of like somebody else then using this profile for themselves, and like they probably would. I think like the projects are missing. Like, what projects did you work on? But I could be wrong.
That could be interesting. Yeah. So that's what I actually liked about background sketch. So I would probably, or yours as well. And this is where we can also combine the layout technically. But I agree. So we can have like maybe even. I wonder what's more important, the main skills or like maybe the recent projects or something.
I think the main skills, and then the recent projects underneath. You know, as the next thing.
We can also try it and see what happens.
Yeah. And I think like what you could actually do is like the user would customize the projects almost like a portfolio kind of thing.
That's interesting. Okay.
A few additions here. Of course, reputation will be context dependent, and it's not necessarily transferable. Listening to the discussion, I think that, and again, that's my assumption, that the person would try to figure out if this is the right person for the right project. Because if someone is a great designer, it's different to design in a startup versus in an enterprise environment.
Right.
So probably the key question when I'm looking at someone's profile, from the point of view, it's like, do I want to have them on my team or not, is can I find evidence that they did good work in similar projects?
Yeah, okay, okay, yeah. That's a very good point.
And that creates a lot of other issues. Like personally, I always had the problem that I did other things than the things that I wanted to do, for which I didn't have evidence or I couldn't share evidence. For example, now I did some work, around project design and so on, but most of the stuff is under NDAs. So I just can't, like share it.
That's true. That's also interesting because technically that, you could have this system still with work under NDA. But this is, I think, it's a very good point. The projects, because seeing the projects that the person has completed also gives you an information about their interests and their intangible knowledge. So if they've worked on something related to like climate change, they have some kind of proficiency or at least interest in that topic. And you might want to work with them again, or like on your project, which is also something climate related, because they already have that experience. Yeah, this is nice. Okay. Regarding the layout, I'm open to any change. I think this one might be just like easy to user test. And then we can see like basically which content works and then rearrange that, if that's okay for you, Charlie, or
I think like
shuffle it.
Like we always change a little bit of the layout when we actually get to prototyping.
True. Yeah.
So I would actually like this bit's done now, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, we can look at the other things. If there's anything else there worth pointing out.
I think this is correct, and like we might change the layout, but what we have decided in this is the hierarchy as it is.
True. Yeah, I agree.
Because it might just be that we use that left and right layout, but we know that the hierarchy size and visually is the logo, Vikrant, and the get in touch button. So
yeah. Vikrant also has this sketch with the chart with the growth trajectory or something.
Actually, that growth thing, I don't know how to define it, but the GitHub people have done it very good. Like, like you can see a year-long calendar, and these green spots can be seen as the badges they have like earned.
Right.
So people can just hover over any of these points and see like who has attested them this specific badge, or they can see the details of the badge as well. So yeah,
I think that it's very powerful because your skills degrade over time if you don't use them.
Exactly.
So if you do one deep hyper sprint per year, you might not be very fresh. That's one point. And another one, I'm not 100% convinced, like this is the right or the optimal approach in terms of skills, but I think it's very important from the point of view of the sprint, because DeFi projects, they work in a different way, and you will need an interface, which is like where Stepan comes in, to aggregate all those different projects that they do stuff on themselves into one place, and that will be a hard task.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I think I can see that so I would assume that we will learn quite a lot from the user interviews showing them this, because what we're thinking about the visual hierarchy at this point might end up being completely different for users who, have not seen anything like this before. And I think that will hopefully give us a little bit of data on how to structure things like, all the projects you've participated on, and or additional reputation, because this is like, I really like and agree on the featured projects and this like GitHub-like representation, because it provides just so much information that you can dig deeper into. We just need to make it fit with everything else that needs to be on this page. But yeah, let's move on to the next screen.
On the next screen with your kind of like task system, my recommendation is that we don't do that in this prototype, and then we design that from the data from this first profile.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's take that away then. We can kind of assume that. We can assume that something like that has to theoretically exist, but the question is where and how is it going to look exactly. But yeah, just keeping that in the back of our minds then. Nice. Okay, let's assume for the prototype's sake, that was enough information, or we will also try to learn where they would look at, what else they would look, what else they want to know. So they go back to the screen before, reviewing, and then, yeah, something like that. So we don't have to copy paste that in. And then we would have reviewing and accepting their application, which is going to be, I'm just going to remove this one.
I think, yeah, this one you've got where it says confirm figurant and you select the tasks and you have the tick boxes. I think that makes sense. The question is how much we emphasize the payment calculator as well. To me, I think like that's like a key decision when you're doing this, because you might be thinking like, how much do I want to get paid? What's the bonuses?
So Uber calculates these things automatically for the person, and it shows you like a range of like you earn between $2 and $5 for that trip.
Okay.
And so you don't have to really think. You just like, okay, at least I'll get $2. That's fine. And I would probably, so my suggestion would be to keep it as minimal and as low friction here as possible, to just like get them to sign up to work with them, but then really go into the details later. And we can project the payment based on internal calculation of the tasks that we have set up. So we have that data anyway.
Yes. I think the only thing that I would say that goes against the feedback from Zargam, which was kind of like not using like those selecting the things, because he said like it's always going to be like a custom negotiation between the collaborator and the lead to actually how much they want to give up. And I think what we have with those sliders actually is the kind of based on his feedback, the way that this would happen. So, you know, you'd select the tasks and maybe that pre-fills the slider below, but then you could then rejig it.
Okay, let's try it then. Let's put the slider in and pre-fill it. And yeah. And then say why, and then they can confirm. Yeah, sorry, this is like,
yeah.
Hold on, I'll do it.
Thank you.
There's this frame. Yeah, thanks. Okay. And then that gets to here.
And then that goes in. Yeah, okay, we are doing the same thing.
Yay. Oh, cool, thanks. Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, that can pre-adjust based on what they tick. Then maybe we don't need that thing on the right then, because actually that information is at the bottom with the projected payment.
Yeah, or it could be on the right-hand side, and like I like this.
Yeah, actually, I think it works
checkout
well.
thing, because if you have a lot of tasks, then you always have that sticky on the side.
That's true. I agree, and you can see it adjusting, and then you can adjust the percentage as well, optionally as well. So it's not kind of like something you have to do. So the simplicity which you were describing still stays there.
Well, we can actually. So yeah, wait. I would probably even make the payment calculator part of this thing,
okay.
And be like the payment calculator and the projected rate. So like potentially these things based on the payment calculator.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. I removed the bit where it's kind of giving an overview, like the checkout on the tasks, because I think that's just duplicating it.
Yeah, exactly.
Information. White box, give me white. Oh, okay. There we go.
Or I mean, it could be, maybe it's just this one. So it's kind of something like this, but like in the nice way that you have.
No, I think you're right. But we need to add some little details about how that's. Oh yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, and then the button underneath. Well, I don't know where that came from. There's one thing missing. I fill in this as well, just to quickly recap, which was in my sketch, is kind of like the message from the applicant.
Well, that's
that
still going to be here. So
yeah,
I think that's going to be fine.
That's going to be fine. Okay.
Yeah. Like that's the message is like your initial impulse to explore the person.
Okay. Then in that case, I think we need one thing, which is a link back to their profile.
Yes. Or like to the previous page. Although actually, so I think maybe this could be the light box. Is that the light box? I don't know.
I think because of the left-right layout, it would have to be a full page.
Well, yeah. Then
potentially not.
Yeah, and I think it's fine as its own page, but then it just has to go back to the project page, not to the profile.
Okay, it could be a light box.
Can it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll trust you. But it doesn't matter anyway. Like whatever way it goes back, that's the easiest.
Yeah, I like the idea of the light box, and then that raises the question: should we have a link to this light box in the profile page?
I think it would make things technically it would make sense, but if you would go there, then the light box misses the whole context of the project. So you would have to somehow essentially maybe link to the actual project rather than to the light box of the application.
That's cool.
Okay, but that's essentially it.
Right? Yeah, and actually
there are two tick boxes over here. Like, I guess, I don't know.
Say it again. Sorry.
There are two tick boxes over here, check boxes.
Oh, it's not two check boxes. So this check mark on the side was more for as a symbol for which tasks that person already owns. So like which capabilities they already own, because they could also apply for something that they're also really good at just because they want to do it or they want to help out with something, and it will help make a decision.
Yeah, so makes sense. Like, yeah.
We'll have to obviously find a nicer way than just a check mark, but I think we can figure it out. Cool.
So I guess Charlie was saying something.
It was just to confirm that they do need to go back to that project page because they need to read why they've applied again. So
exactly. Yeah.
We're almost there, so I think let's just quickly do the next few screens and take a break. I think the next one is prepare for sprint and then do the work. We'll just leave that as it is for now. I think it's okay. And the next the next one is feedback after the project and calculate rates. Essentially, like I feel like what you sketched out in those 3 screens is exactly what needs to be done. Right. I don't see anything else.
Yeah, I just took the questions that we already have. So like, what could have you done better? That's there for self-reflection and getting you into the right mood. What did your collaborator do well? Also kind of to frame it from a positive perspective first and not have people insulting each other. And then how can they improve? And then we have this, how much support did they need, which quantifies a little bit of how, like, yeah, how much support they basically needed. It's all data that can be used. I don't know where yet. Although actually in the track record of the past projects, yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so basically I had in my sketch on the past projects, you've got this thing where it says like, you have the approved by, and you can see like the photo of the person, you click the see approval, and the idea was like that brought up with a light box with those details, essentially.
Yeah, we should user test that, but I agree. I think that would be nice.
Actually, maybe I'll just get that light box back into that previous screen so you can just see. There it is. So put it there with a little arrow. There we go.
Nice.
Okay. So I think, yeah, I'm happy to skip just over those screens and know we'll go to details next round. And then it's just the project dashboard. Yeah.
So yeah, we have these two versions. Or do you have also? Did you sketch one? I don't remember.
No, I didn't do one. I skipped this screen.
Yeah.
I think the information you have is correct in the project view. Current balance, I think we get rid of it because we don't have any payouts in this system.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's just the discussion we had around organizational view, project view.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we could already make that part of the prototype. That should be relatively easy. So we can say organizations, like as a menu item.
Yeah.
And then
for everybody else, just to give a little bit of a context, we were thinking about how this kind of like fits in for other organizations. I can't actually remember the context of why we were discussing this.
Yeah, I mean, where like how should the projects be arranged and filtered?
Yeah.
And so like what would be the view from an organizational perspective? I think.
Yeah, we had a motivation, which was like for deep work, we wanted anybody to be able to go to this dashboard and see like what projects were available within deep work, essentially,
right.
And then give some
so
other
it's
information
like Google
about
Summer of Code, something like that. Like
also,
you see the list of organizations participating in the.
For example.
Exactly, and the idea is that you then click on the one organization, which would be deep work. You can see all the projects which are currently available in deep work.
It was actually the dashboard. So
yeah,
the reason for that, yeah.
Yeah, and some additional information. Yeah.
So yeah, the reason for that conversation was around the company-specific dashboard, which is something that would show how many projects have happened in the past of that organization, or how many have you contributed to. So it's almost like if you see, like, if you have your crypto wallet and you have all your different assets, what kind of details would you see if you went into one of these assets? You would kind of see the historical performance of that token, for instance, and your trades in the past. And so the idea would be to just kind of give a little bit of data, historical data on the general health of the organization, so that you can make a decision on whether you should be working more for them or less, or whether you should find another organization, or whether you should learn some new skills that would be useful for that organization. So it's kind of
We don't need to test this because it's just very focused to us. But,
exactly.
Vikram, that is exactly right. That view like that. But again, we don't need it.
Exactly. So yeah, we can have the tabs, but generally we'll just be at your work essentially.
And one thing that might be important for later on, I think there is an amazing amount of information in those relationships, especially for the whole community by itself. So imagine that, you see all the work, right? So let's say I worked on something with those people on Colony project, and Colony had other projects with deep work somewhere else. So maybe that's actually the future of LinkedIn Web3.
Yeah, exactly. So these relationships should be all explorable somehow. I think, so like all projects and finished projects, and then obviously it would be nice to kind of filter through all of them somehow. But I think that would be nice.
We're at the hour and a half mark, so I'm going to suggest, because we got to the end,
That's a break,
we take a 15-minute break, and then we go for another hour, and then we've got another 15 minutes break, and then another hour to finish.
Sounds good. Cool.
Does that add up? Yes,
I don't
does.
know. It sounds fine.
Let's do 20 minutes, because then we can do 50-minute run-throughs. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, and see you later.
Andre, I think I'll be joining other things. So I don't think I'm super useful at this stage, but definitely interested in exploring more. So specifically, just
is there? Yeah, I actually have a question before you leave.
Your inputs were super useful to me, especially like around the profile page. So thank you very much. But sorry, I'll leave Andre.
Yeah, so I think we can just maybe think separately. So what we're doing now, we're approaching similar problems. So especially the reputation parts and collecting it from different sources, creating this protocol that is easily pluggable into different applications, and then smart contracts for reputation scoring, so that scoring is done in a transparent way and everybody can understand how it's done. So scoring is subjective. That's fine. It always is, but if it's a smart contract and it's auditable and you can fork it, you can make proof on it, then now you understand why you should trust it, or where it can be biased and how it can be gained. Because again, any type of badge or credentialing system, you always will have people who are trying to gain it. So so we don't have a lot of really like user research, product design competencies. So that's why this was and is super useful for me. But like I want to zoom into this profile, and especially cross-domain profile. So I mentioned same person having profiles. They might be content creator and designer and engineer and musician and anything, like people usually not just one thing. So want to explore that more.
Do you think anything from what we're kind of building and designing right now is either clearly inhibiting that exploration, or could easily benefit from something that you have in mind?
So definitely this screen number 4 and 5, and then the one below is the skill tree. So skill tree might be too one-dimensional. Not always it can be represented as a badge. Like your Twitter followers are not a badge. Or like the fact that Vitalik Buterin is following you, it's not well, you can have a badge, but it might be useful in some contexts. It might be completely irrelevant in others. And one more practical thing, I think whatever we're building can be really just used as a backend for the system, because it will be open source anyway, and the more projects using it, the better. Like more feedback and understanding how to improve it actually, and how to tailor it to specific verticals. So yeah.
So how do you mean which system could be a backend for which? I didn't catch that.
So the reputation protocol that we are working on, it seems just to be the kind of the backend for all these badges and skills and project capturing. Cool.
Yeah,
it is open source. It will be on the blockchain. You can so it's public. It's like every data you can make it private by default as a customer, but you can also display it publicly and integrate it into
that's very cool.
Any DAO.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. Great. That'll be amazing. And so and anything else? So there's nothing that you can see that kind of is obviously designed against what you're building, or that would be stand in conflict, or is there anything that you would kind of prefer to change or adjust a little bit?
I don't see any conflicts. I mean, like just I wasn't focusing, and I think the first 3 screens and the last couple of screens, that is more deep work specific. That just something similar will be at other organizations, but it will be different. For example, people who are hiring full-time employees, they don't have this notion of projects. They're interested in long-term, or maybe organizations that are giving grants. Again, for them, you can call it a project, but it's not like you're finding a collaborator. It's more like you're finding a team that is already assembled and can complete a certain grant or something like that.
Agree.
I'm super curious about user research and feedback in general. That's, I think,
me too.
Most important part. What users actually think about it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one last question. Did you have, because you mentioned that for the skill tree, just this like super complicated sketch? Do you have any thoughts on that, or any? Because I don't remember, you mentioned something about it, but I forgot what you said.
So in my view, it is the most complex part to explore. I don't think it will be I don't think it is possible to split every domain knowledge into very concrete, separate skills or badges. It's not a game, because life is more complicated, and it just it's sometimes evolving faster that you can create ontology for it. But yes, so this gives a lot of inspiration. I don't know how it should look like. I think it might be useful to look at the exact data points that you're able to collect. So you have peer review, you have this automated data, you have other reputation systems, you have DAOs. When you combine it in a single profile, it's interesting to see how it would look like.
Okay. I agree.
So I see some combination of badges and numeric scores and comments, or maybe like text description. That would be your profile, but it will be different depending on the domain.
Yeah, agree. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you so much. That was very helpful. I'll go take a break as well then. And
thanks a lot for facilitating.
No, yeah, thanks also for your help. That was really, really insightful and supportive and helpful over the last 2 days. It's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep in touch and
cool.
share the progress.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll keep you in the loop. Enjoy your day.
Okay. Yeah. You too. Take care.
Bye. Sorry, I took a minute longer.
Me too. We just got back.
Oh, nice. Okay, perfect. We back.
Clearly needed 21 minutes.
Nice. All right, cool. I wonder if we can even do it in one pass. So what we need to do is essentially just fill in the details here, right?
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty much there. Let's say
set the timer then.
Yeah, 50 minutes, and let's do it.
All right, cool.
Guys, unfortunately, I need to jump off
All
because
good,
of
man.
other meetings.
You are amazing. Thank you so much for helping.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Glad to be around, and I hope like this work progresses forward, and we figure out better ways to coordinate the teams. I really need it.
Yeah, we will. We'll have to. Thank you so much for your help, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and I'll catch up with the recordings later.
Cool.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
You too.
All right. Then, yeah, nice. Discord is there. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Vikrant, or whoever that was. We can also probably, maybe we should also try both. Like email would be probably preferable because that's what people at least experts in our network should be looking at.
Most likely, yeah.
Set up a selection builder. Oh. Okay, I mean, I'm also going to write this in a little bit more detail. Oops. Okay. Then we have, cool. So this is actually the one that we still need to get into a bit more detail on.
Yeah, definitely.
What the tasks are on the project page. So I guess I assumed something very similar to this My Design Sprint tool, which is actually scheduling the projects by days. But I think that might be not the right approach for this tool.
I think it might be limiting.
Yeah. So,
but then days could be actually categories.
That could make sense. Yeah. Well, let's try it. So let's sketch out one version how that would be expanded. Let's take the user research one. I'm just going to duplicate all of this.
Before we do that, let's just check that the
details.
The details are correct. So it's like task, guide, compensation, skills required.
Okay.
Received by, that should be reviewed by. I don't know what the copy maybe should be a little bit different.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I'll also have to jump off.
No worries, all good. Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, actually, I should thank you guys. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks to you, man.
Thanks.
Let's catch up soon. Bye.
Yeah.
Take care. Cool. I think the facilitation. I'm just thinking what details need to be there. So technically, we have the role for the expert, and then, I mean, it has to have the scope of the project. So it's like, so that let me just break this down. That's a group. I'm just going to play with the user research one, duplicate it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's imagine we have a project and that needs Georgia to do user research.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, we're starting off with just user research. Then we need a description. Actually, on the same note, I think I have a data model for all the details that need to be there. Let me just load it up real quick.
Okay. Well, you load that up because I'm a little confused, but it might make sense.
So, okay, so there's a project which contains a lot of different details. So the project has a name. It's, well, and this is like generally everything in deep work right now. So it also has an ID of the product, which is internal, like that's how we do the calculate how much it's being sold for. It then contains all skill IDs. So these are the things that we're listing here. So facilitation, user research, product design. It also contains the tasks that are necessary because each skill might have a different set of tasks that need to be done. It then has the expert wallet IDs, it has the collaborator wallet IDs, and it has the project owner.
What's the wallet ID?
The account IDs. So that's for when, when an expert has already signed up or a collaborator, they are on that project. Then additionally and optionally, we also have something like an agreement, a client, a start date, an end date, duration, and cost. And that's something that can probably be live in this external. Well, start and end date is specified here, but then the rest is probably going to be somewhere hosted externally. So then we go to the skills, and the skills are those skills essentially that are required to complete this project. So we have facilitation is a skill, product design is a skill, and
I'm showing the screen because I'm just very visually based. So hearing you say it, it's not
no problem.
It's kind of going in one ear out the next. Thank you.
I'm not sure if that's going to be more helpful, but hopefully a little bit.
It instantly is.
Okay. So I just read out basically the projects. This is one piece of data, and then we have the skill IDs which live here, and these skill IDs are connected to the tasks as well. So, or no, sorry, there's different things. The skills, a skill is the representation of the capabilities of what the person is able to complete. And there's a difference because there's a task, and a task is what needs to be done for the project, and there's a capability, and a capability is what that's like all the capabilities that skill is made of.
Yes.
So
okay. Got it.
That's the expert badge, and these are the non-expert badges.
Okay.
And this is what we're showing in the in this interface. So for the skill domain, we need the skill ID itself, so facilitation or user research. We need the capability IDs, which this relies on, but that's only in order to approve the expert. We have the skill description, which we have there as the docs, and it's actually the same with the documentation.
Yeah.
So actually this one does not need to exist. So we only have the skill, so that's actually everything that we need to know. Let me see if I can jump to this board. And then, okay, so and then we have the cost for the entire project, but maybe the oops. This is not always the same because there might be mentoring included, and that costs more.
Yeah, then we should have the range.
Okay. Yeah. That's also tricky because, well, maybe it's not the compensation, maybe it's more like the budget.
Yeah, okay. Let's just think about the information layout here, okay? Because I think you're seeing this differently to what I'm seeing it when you remove the task lead researcher.
What is that supposed to be for? What was that good for?
So I guess like, can you bring up the user research task list, the spreadsheet?
Yeah.
And then this might make sense.
So I'll just use that one if that's okay. Or do you want me to share the other one?
No, this is correct. Yeah, it doesn't have it. So
yeah,
I guess what
I have the other one somewhere.
Yeah. No. It just doesn't have what I'm about to explain. That's all. Is that you always have to have on a project the expert. So I guess like the reason for that line there, like that was the line which the expert applies for, and all the other lines underneath which have the different tasks were the ones for the collaborators to apply for. Which
one do you mean? Sorry.
So like when you're in this line here, the one above, like lead research docs compensation expert, this is the line for the person who's going to lead the project as the user research to apply. Right. And then when you expand, it has then all the other tasks which you can then apply to collaborate with.
I think that assumes but it's the same thing. Like it's work that needs to be done. The question is, who's it being done by?
Yeah, okay. So that's my point, is that you couldn't just have the list of tasks, because there's an additional task which you don't have in that previous spreadsheet, which is to be the lead of the project, to be the lead researcher.
Yeah, exactly. But that has to be somehow distinctly clear, and also like clear within the application. So that's the way I visualized it in my sketch, which is not correct. Like it's not going to work. But let me just share this.
Yeah.
Is that you essentially? Well, okay, so. Yeah, I don't exactly know how to design it properly, because I split it up as the team, where you can apply for the actual lead role, and only on the lead role, or you look through all. Maybe it's actually the same as you have then.
Well, yeah, but that's what I sketched out earlier, and then you said no, because the team is all part of the same team. That's why I'm trying to get. That's why I'm so confused, because you basically, because that's what I had, and then you were like, no, it's not like that, because it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's just.
Can I take 2 minutes just to draw out what this looks like either side? Like collapsed and not collapsed, and then that might actually help us. I'll just go into my little workspace down below.
Yeah.
So that's that view.
Because the thing is, you'd also collaborate with the individual person somehow, but also somehow not. But then, why don't we make these smaller and just keep, okay, let me also sketch up a version of what I have in mind. Okay, I think we actually had something very similar, but I think I misunderstood the sketches that you have done.
There we go.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, me too.
Let's see yours.
I mean, I only have, I mean, I'm not done with the whole split up, but I just basically like collapsed this thing into something smaller, into the one that I had in mind with these super tiny things, but I didn't.
And then, but where does the collaborators task go in that?
So
in a separate list?
Yes, that would be then in a separate list, I think.
Okay. Fine. Okay, we can do it that way.
Wait. Let me review yours, because that's also. So the issue is that these, because I think I've sketched something on paper as well where that list would be collapsed and then expanded. And the issue is that you have two different roles. You have either the expert who needs the shortest path to applying to the project. They don't need to like justify anything. They just need like one click and then they apply it.
Yeah.
At the same time, that same interface needs to cater for someone who wants to apply for additional tasks. So
well, that's great then, because that's what I was trying to do earlier, and then you said not to do.
I think, I think I misunderstood your sketch, and
okay.
that was my bad. Sorry, but
yeah, okay.
I actually agree. So I would probably like collapse the expert applications, because we don't need to say like what the skill is. We just need to guide them to the documentation. We don't need to necessarily say that it's lead facilitation if these applications are only for the lead facilitation. Unless you have any particular thoughts to it. And the review by, I also am not sure if that's important.
I think the reason for the review by this is it works with the tasks in the sense of like how other people use this system in the future. So if you imagine like somebody else, like what we were talking about earlier today, like not a project-based thing, where it's just like you wanted to create a task within a project, which then somebody could then go do. And then you need somebody who is going to review it. Essentially, you'd have to set up those two parameters.
I expected that to be the creator of this one.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
But you might have a point, because does that have to be a different person, or can that be a different person? Probably not, does it? So.
Probably not. I think if I was just to slim this down, let me actually, I think this might, this is going to make sense in a second.
Yeah, okay, right. Right, maybe instead of creative director, we can call it an owner or something, or project owner.
Yeah, hang on a second. Oh yeah, maybe. I'm thinking the project might have an owner, and then creative directors can apply to.
What's your like? How do you imagine the difference?
For example, like in the current system, one of us might actually create the project, and then it might actually need a creative director to run it.
Okay. But it can still, okay, then but we can still call it the, okay, right. So
Or if a client creates the project, then it needs a creative director to apply.
Okay, right. And then, okay, I see. But then it's, in this case, it might be just 4 roles, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, the only reason was that to do it like that was just because it didn't have space.
Okay. Right, okay. I wonder if we still need some kind of visual hierarchy, because the creative director would be the project owner, even if it's not the creator.
I think by going first, it makes sense, but
yeah, but like, it's still like, right now they all look equally important because they're right next to each other.
Then make it like that.
So yeah, I think that way was actually nicer, but
if it looks bad now, it doesn't matter, because we just know that it's just hierarchy.
I know. I'm just trying to think if there's a need to separate them even further. So say, like, that's the team, and then, like, let's say, oops, sorry, team, and then you can say project owner is the creative director, which is the role within the system. Oops. And then we have experts. And then once they are scheduled, we would have collaborators too.
Yeah.
Right, and then we have we can just say tasks. Right.
Okay, yeah. Do we need reviewed by then? No.
I think so, yeah.
Required skills? No.
It's, yeah.
Compensation, yes. Guide and apply, yeah.
Yeah, compensation is probably more like a projected compensation, because it's like, I'm not sure if that's going to be, like, that's again, like Zargam's comment, it might not be precise. I think I have like the duration rather than the compensation. I think duration might give people a better estimation on how long these things will take.
And I think we should have both then, shouldn't we? Because people want to know how much they're gonna earn by doing these things.
Yeah, it's hard to estimate that number though. Like the way we have it now is really not ideal, because the way we have it now is, no, not the sliders. The sliders are great. The step before. So we started off by calculating how long a person would take to complete that task, and then multiplying that by a daily rate of like $50 or something.
Right.
And that's not a representation, like an adequate representation of work, because some tasks might be very easy, some tasks might be very difficult, some tasks might require you to just sit in and listen. other tasks might require you to do extremely hard work. And so it breaks a little bit that system of figuring out how much each task should be paid. So I would rather suggest keeping that.
Can I just ask what happens on, if that's the case, then on screen, the one when I'm confirming Vikrant, because it seems like there, when I'm selecting things, it gave a projected payout. So all these things were calculated.
Yeah, my assumption would actually be similar to how you would use the slider. You would just look at how many tasks have been selected and be like, this task is like X% of a project. But to be honest, maybe that.
I think that from what you're describing, we should just remove any kind of price per for any task and do everything on the slider.
Maybe for now, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like that's what works, at least for us. Like we kind of know, maybe like so that's where maybe the compensation or the budget would make sense for the actual kind of like rate. Sorry, the what do you call them? Like the team things.
Yeah, okay.
Where you could, rather than saying like you get exactly that amount, your compensation is like that, or like the budget for this work is the range here. But I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but it's not a budget. What you're describing is correct. It's kind of like there's a compensation range for an expert and there's a compensation range for a collaborator.
Right. Oh, that's actually true. So yeah, actually, I think even if the collaborator does nothing, they could. Does a collaborator get paid anything if they do like 0? No, they don't. Anything,
no, they
right?
don't, because at the end of it, the expert would put the slider down to 0.
Okay, so actually, then it's okay. So what if we say for collaborators it's between 0 and max amount?
Yes.
And for experts, it's between minimal amount, which is just mentoring, to maximal amount.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that would be reasonable. Okay, and then we have still the issue with the tasks.
We'll get there.
So projected compensation, but that goes on the top, or like more like here. Oops. Into this one.
Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, I get you.
Because that's what these people are like applying for. But although, fuck, they're not applying there, they're applying for the tasks. Ah, shit.
Are we trying to make this too complex by making it all on one page?
No, it's not all on one page. It's because these things are so connected that they're contextually relevant. Although maybe, yeah, we could split them up in 2 pages. We could say you could apply as an expert or you can apply as a collaborator. Yeah. And then the next one could be a lightbox for the collaborator or for the expert to apply for the collaborator.
No, all I'm saying is it's on the not like that, but I think the page is correct as you're ordering it now, but it's just on this next page is when you select the tasks you're going to do.
Right, that's what I mean, yeah. So rather than having the tasks as part of that page, the product page, creating a new page or like a lightbox which features the list. Yeah, that would make sense because you're also applying for working in a specific domain. And then we can maybe even play with these things a little bit visually, so that the person does not apply for the domain, but they would apply for working with that person.
Mm-hmm.
So something like man, it's quite an exercise to use this fucking ball mouse.
You have yourself to blame.
I know. I'm not gonna blame.
And the reason I'm laughing is because I'm trying my best to affirm why I'm not doing the same thing as you, because I know you're right and I should stop using my Apple products.
It's a pain in the ass, but I mean, you shouldn't do that. Like, that thing is like a kind of a dumb idea. I mean,
Well,
I would say it's a good idea because long term it's better for your hands.
yeah.
I also have like this spaceship of a keyboard. I don't know if you've ever used them, but
A long time ago, like I think when I was a kid, I had something like that.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. I had that at Agent Smart. I bought that ages ago, so I kind of still know how it works. But it's like in the beginning, it's like fuck that. But honestly, I actually feel already like I'm getting a lot better at using that mouse. It's just really unusual.
Okay.
The trickiest thing is though still, well, let me just get rid of these and replace those. Is the switch from command to control.
Oh yeah, that would drive me insane.
Yeah, it's not super fun.
Makes sense.
It's like the same thumb does both and they do completely different things. Anyway, okay. Yeah, this is amazing. Okay. I like where it's going now.
Do you mind stopping your screen share? I feel like it's burning out my graphics card.
Oh, sorry.
Running 2 monitors, and then that's for some reason I think that's what's killing it. I can hear the fan like going.
No, yeah, all good. Sorry.
And then there's little sections of my screen which like flash red, which I know is that the card's burning.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, apply for user research collaboration. Yeah, this is great because then in that screen you can also already also see how long it's going to take, and the task details, the title, symbol, and whether you already have that badge. That would be helpful to know.
Yeah, and this works as well for the future of this too, because if I think about the previous screen, someone would create a project like this to accredit somebody with a new skill. It would have an owner. If that person would be the, oh no, you wouldn't have an owner. You'd have like you'd have workers, and you'd have an expert and a collaborator. So an assessor and somebody doing the task. Yeah. Right. Cool.
So the project owner is the person who's assessing it as well. Or how did you mean?
The project owner in this context doesn't actually no, because you wouldn't have a project owner. You just have like imagine the context. I'll just do it in the screen below, just so you know. Imagine I work for GitHub, and there's somebody who's come in and they want to attest that they can do some development work to earn a skill badge. And to do that within the system, I just create a new project which has an assessor and a to be assessed.
Ah, okay. So you're like, let's like the scenario with what is it called? Tian, for instance, where he did some work and you wanted to double check his work, but also you're the creator, you're the assessor, and he's the assessed. But that can also mean that like there still needs to be a project owner, and it's just you as well, because you're owning that project. And I think that distinction might be useful because if you track back, then it will. It's like, let's say the Tian thing. Let's say I was the project owner.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to test his skills. That's different than if you are the project owner and you just want to test his skills. So the reason I'm thinking about this is because it creates another scenario of like of limiting the gameability of it. So like you could technically sign up and be the assessor of someone else, and you create it, and that's cool. But it's a lot more trustworthy if another party is involved in this too.
Agreed. Okay, that's fine. Let's not go into too much detail because we'll go off on a tangent.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. That looks good. Choose a collaborator for this project. Yeah, nice, awesome. Add to your calendar. Check out design files. Read docs. I mean, yeah. I don't know if these things are relevant. They are.
I think that's all good.
Yeah.
Let's just move it down.
Yeah. I guess the. Wait, and so all right, and yeah, cool. And now we have the applications. Okay, and that makes sense because the applications are then just underneath there, underneath the same.
The same, yeah. So copy that across, and then you got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Like that. Oh no, it'd be there. Oh, I guess.
Oh, it is, yeah. Whatever works. Doesn't actually really matter.
And then, who's our user researcher? Is it Georgia?
Yeah. Ah, yeah, cool. Yeah, let's just use Georgia then.
Cool. That's good for that screen then. I'm happy with the content. Top badge, second badge, third badge.
Oh, I would say it's just going to say 15 out of 24 deep work.
Oh, really? Okay.
Badges. That's how I would say. Or do you have a better idea? Or
the reason I did it like that was just from my context is that I could see kind of like roughly what badges that they had, so that gives me like a little rough overview of where they are in their journey. Maybe
if you have icons, like it depends on how deep we go with the iconography. So the skill tree that I have right above, that the reason for that was also that we can create iconography that contains a lot of information that can be reused in other places.
Okay, actually, I think it's okay because I'm trying to make it so that I don't have to click. I can assess on this page and get like a rough overview of who I should click through to the profiles. The answer is I'm always going to click through to the profiles because that's what happens at the moment. Where it's going to come an issue is in the future. Is when you have like 100 applicants and you just don't have time to look at every profile.
Yeah,
we'll come
exactly.
to that problem when it happens.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one is gonna be so that's different. The profile. Here.
Yeah, I'll let you copy it across. Somebody literally made the profile, the contributions. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that was Michal.
Who is Michal?
Michal was a friend of Rodolfo. And I also, I don't remember if I met him on the complexity weekend. I think not. I think Rodolfo just introduced me to him, and he was also running an agency, or is running something like an agency, but they're doing more like computer science related consulting.
Okay. Ah, shit, I just closed Miro. What the fuck?
Cool. Okay, so then we have the projects here as well. I don't know why they didn't copy over. The watch. Okay. Yep. Okay, so this one, yeah, we don't need that.
We were thinking about testing that though, so let's put it in there.
That's a lightbox approved by.
So the idea is on the projects, you can see who approved you and you click through, and that's the details from the feedback stage where it's got like, what could you have done better? What did Vikram do well?
Okay.
How can Vikram improve?
Well, let's do it this way then. Then we can actually user test several things at once. We can use this outline, which specifies exactly which task you did and when it was. So and who is it tested by? Does that make sense? So let me just.
Where does that go into it? Is it part of the information?
Instead of this lightbox that you have on the right hand side, which just says the quote by by the person who's approved.
Yep.
You'd have a little bit more info. So you'd have basically like a little pop-up that comes up if you hover over the project that shows the task. No, wait, it's going to be different tasks.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
think what you're saying makes sense. It's just like on this pop-up, you've got the feedback and the tasks they completed. That's
exactly. Yeah, and the date when that happened.
Yeah.
The date is actually unnecessary if we have this GitHub piece.
Agree. Yeah.
So then we only have the information of which work has been done and who attested that.
So yeah, we've already got that. Oops.
So that would be, okay. Yeah, or like details or something.
Yeah.
And that could be also a lightbox, right?
That's the idea.
Okay. It will probably be a pretty long lightbox if there are many tasks on the project, but that's probably fine, right?
That's fine. Yes, that's fine.
And layout-wise, I'm also thinking this, yeah, okay, so you can basically, we're limiting them to feature only 3 projects and then maybe go into like explore all or something, right?
Yeah. I'll probably go down here.
Yeah, okay. The fuck, this is Times New Roman.
Do we want the feedback section in here as well?
Yeah, I think that's important. But it might be on the very bottom because that's going to be like just an endless list. So below
Okay.
the GitHub piece.
What if?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if? Yeah. What about if we just change this around a little bit? So you have you just have the feedback for your the top 3 projects.
Okay.
So let me just show what I'm thinking. So it's just a little restructuring of this. Where'd that come from? Sorry. I know. Let me go back.
Yeah, so you're almost, you can only highlight the projects along with some feedback from your expert or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that could be interesting.
And then that actually makes more sense to that lightbox actually as well.
Right.
I see.
Good point. Yeah. Okay.
And for me, this is if it has the top 3 like this is a better way of me assessing that person really quickly.
That's also true. Yeah. And then maybe the date should be also part of it, because it could be misleading if the project is like 2 years old. So the name of the project, the date, and the quote.
Yeah, okay. I would say like, yeah, Jan.
Yeah, exactly.
2021, not like the exact day.
Yeah.
Why did I make these all underlined and blue?
Yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Well, we might go, why is that a link later on?
Yeah.
So that's now.
Yeah, so these colors are also quite interesting. I think they do make sense with the colors of the organizations that you're contributing to. So rather than saying product being like deep work studio, and then you can differentiate how many projects or like how much work you do in which organizations.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Cool. And then we have the work gets done.
Okay, this lovely drawing.
I don't know who did that, but it's cool.
There's such an amazing group of people. Like, I'm always so fried.
Cool. And then we have that thing. I don't think that needs more details, does it?
No, it's just all great.
Yeah. And projects again, although we haven't seen them yet. Yeah, okay. So this is going to be the dashboard.
Does it make sense to have that at the end like that? Should we actually just have it at the beginning?
I think both can work. Yeah, maybe so, because it depends on how we start the story, and I think we can do both, because it maybe depends on who we're testing with. So if we test with someone who runs a DAO or an organization, we should put it up front.
Okay.
And if it's the expert, so with this flow, let's just leave it like that for now, because they are coming through an actual project.
This sounds good.
And then we'll get them focused on the work and like end up with this. And I think that's it then. Cool. Do you need anything else?
It looks good to me. I think it's good.
Cool.
One thing I just checked through. Yeah, I think we've cleaned it up and not put too much information on each screen.
Yeah, it looks pretty smooth to me.
Yeah, let's just have a little quick look back on that larger user journey that we did. And just make sure that we're really just testing what we need.
Yeah. Viewing project details and skills needed. That's we starting with that application. Yeah. They received notification, receive a collaborator application with high skill level.
Yeah.
They look through their profile, confirm, feedback, calculate rate, award them the badges, use the profile, and then, I mean, yeah, we don't have the very last piece, which is visualization of exploration of paths in a nice way and creating a professional lifelong reputation, although that's kind of covered in the profile. So we don't have the whole customization. And I might just spend a little bit of time and mock up at least like the skill tree that I've done.
Okay.
Like just as a backup. It might not be super necessary, but I think it's going to be handy.
Yeah.
Build software that manages people's skills. Okay. Create standard to provide a self-sovereign credentialing system. Yeah. So also, yeah, that's covered. Ensure legitimacy, create profiles, enable universal identifiers. And then the very start, make sure this is an open source that can be used, standardized open source with skills credential useful for any community. Make this useful for people who want to build skill systems, make it accessible for admins to create new skill system with their own custom roles and skills.
Yeah, we chose not to focus on all these things in this prototype, so I think that's okay.
Exactly.
The only thing that I can kind of see, just sort of feels like it's missing a little bit from the end, is yeah, like when you click that, just a screen after this, you click confirm. It just really haven't got a confirmation screen.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And the reason I say that is just because in the perspective of I need to see what goes there to then put that data into an invoice at the moment, or eventually we're just going to con.
Yeah, it would be good if that would generate an invoice and send it directly to them in an email or somehow like to you, so that we don't have to use the auto invoicer.
Yeah. So actually, what I'm going to build. What am I going to do next? Because everybody has their own way of invoicing. So I've started thinking about it the last couple of days, and just to kind of like clean up the financial system before we can use Conley.
Right.
Because essentially it's just like whenever somebody wants to get paid, they're going to fill in a type form, and they can attach an invoice. And if they don't attach an invoice, then it's okay, essentially. But I think what we'll have to do is like have some kind of part of that. They have to fill in, if they haven't done already, their personal details like name and address. So we have like because what the invoice basically does is just attest that there's a person on the other end who's paying their taxes before we send them some crypto. So we're not just money laundering.
Okay, I see. Okay.
So the system that I think I'm going to move to is kind of like just a type form, where you have to you fill in name, how much you want to get paid, you attach an invoice which is optional, and you describe what you're getting paid for. That will all just go into one spreadsheet with your wallet address, and at the end of the month I will literally just go into the payment. I'll just review them all and then go into one payment tool, type in those figures with the address, and then in one transaction just make all the payments.
What would be interesting, or what could simplify it as well, is if we had a completed project screen where all the calculations are just shown here.
Yes.
So everybody is doing the calculations, and when that's finished, you have that, and then you can share, like the expert will share the link to the project to you. So you can just review all the numbers and be like, okay, that's exactly how much they all get paid, done.
Yeah, and actually that's what will happen with Colony as well, because you take that data from that page then input into Colony as the creative director.
That's exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, actually that makes sense. Yeah, that's just an additional point. What I'm talking about with the invoicing system, that will still be required as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would make it easier to invoice directly, or more like to check if the invoice that they're sending out is actually truthful, or if they're just making up a number. Because if they use the calculator to calculate the rate and it's there, and it's just like in this. Like either they dispute it or and like recalculate it somehow, or it's going to be just fixed there forever, or like for as long as the page is online. And you as the creative director and like finance person, you can review these numbers almost like as a receipt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, yeah.
So it's like, here's the link to the completed project page or something. Please click here to invoice. And then it will lead to Typeform. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe it could even, rather than a Typeform, it could maybe even pre-populate everything in an email, and that just sends an email to you. Although, you would have to enter the details, right?
Yeah, no, the reason is that basically what I want to do probably in the next 2 months is just move us entirely to USDC payments. Because I think like everybody's submitting invoices currently in different
currencies.
Different currencies is what is taking like the longest thing about finances, because I have to basically I'm managing an organization which has multiple currencies and is paying people in multiple currencies, checking all the invoices and stuff like that. And it's okay at the moment, but it's not. We're not going to be able to expand with that. And so straight away it will go from like me doing 4 hours of invoice payments to probably about an hour or half an hour, because it's just like it will all be there with one data in one place, job done. And I don't have to check the invoices or check the emails. And longer term, as it expands, it actually works really, really well. And if Colony doesn't work out, we can actually use that system longer term, because that Typeform just is replaced with a
piece of interface.
An interface, which then goes, or it could even just continue being a Typeform, which then fills in an interface somewhere, which then the DAO votes on for the payouts, or possibly disputes them if there's like it disputes an individual line if there's an issue.
Okay.
I think. Do you think? That's a good point, actually. Do you think it would be okay to move just to crypto payments for everybody?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody has to manage getting it to fiat themselves, and that's okay.
It's not a big deal. It's enough ways to do it.
Exactly. And I think it's okay because it's all right adding a layer of friction of crypto, because they're getting paid money. So
yeah, exactly. That's fine. I don't think it'll be difficult.
Cool.
I think I also asked around, and that was no problem.
Brilliant. Okay, cool.
I have another set of like smaller questions which I wrote down yesterday, just to keep in mind that we are designing, keeping these things in mind. So one of the things that can happen is that someone might want to retract an attestation, and there's also the possibility of a skill decaying over time. Do we? So because we're not, since we haven't designed this like in-depth skill tree, or not went into that in detail, I think that's something that could happen in here, which is whenever the task details change somewhere, you would have to, yeah, although like the last completed is probably the best data point for that. Technically, what I was thinking is that if we have a documentation and each task has a snippet of text, which lives on IPFS or somewhere else, but you can hash that text. And if that hash changes, or if that text changes, then the hash will not be the same anymore. And then you can pretty easily say which tasks are outdated in someone's skill tree, so that they would have to refresh that skill if they want to have the full skill again. So
yeah,
it's not that it completely disappears, but it's more like there's a green state, which is like you know exactly perfectly how to do it. There's an orange state, which is like you've done that task before, but it's slightly changed how the way we do it now. And there's like a red state, which is like either you don't have it or it's like outdated completely.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because that's just like if it's NFT badges in the future, then that's also fine because it's just the front end which decides those colors from those badges.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine. I think the what's more of an issue from what you just said is like when you need to remove somebody's skill badge. I just don't know how you would do that with a decentralized network and NFTs.
Well, you can do that, but it's a different software. So you basically need something like what Colony has for disputing a transaction. So you basically need a little game system for like bringing that up. And that might be also something that's like, I don't know, maybe even within Colony or something where you could be like, I'm disputing this person's skill badge. And then you have the whole community coming in and being like, well, like I'm disputing that person's skill badge and I'm betting like $100 on it or something. And then,
okay, yeah, and actually, no, I'm thinking more of a technical perspective because if they hold the NFT, like how the fuck does that get rid of it? But that's okay because it's just like you blacklist the address holding that NFT. In
long term, it's not going to be NFTs anyway. So NFTs are way too rigid, and there's better technology now. There's the ceramic protocol, which is essentially you can transfer it to NFTs if you wanted to, but it's more it's kind of a database that's describing also the relationships between the individual NFTs or like the badges. It's really I
won't worry myself about it. It's cool.
Also, it's like it's not time to really decide on that yet. Okay, so what's public versus private on a profile? That's something that we'll have to also take into consideration when you're in the admin mode of your own profile. So you can see that profile from the outside, but then you should be able to somehow, if that's your profile, we'll just, I don't know, put 3 dots on it or something so you can remove it.
Yeah.
Attesting skills outside of an organizational project work. Yeah, we covered that. Proof of knowledge. We also kind of covered that with the projects, but that's also something with the individual reputation that you can add, or like Twitter or whatever. And then I have another one, which is full anonymity. So technically, I think the software should be designed so it's possible to be completely anonymous, not knowing what your name is, but still be able to work on projects. And the only thing where I can see a problem here is the invoicing step at the end. But since that's not part of the project, that's also going to be fine, I think. So.
Yeah, that's fine. We actually haven't covered profile creation or anything in this, have we?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
But I think that should be fine because it's not a long process. It's just, well, at least like you just like that's. I mean, I can probably like mock up a couple of screens if I know.
We don't need to. It's just like if it was anonymous, you would just when you create your profile. We don't ask for. You don't have to fill
exactly. Yeah.
You just put in MC Deep Work.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
And then you're always known in the system as MC Deep Work.
Exactly.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then you can still do the invoicing, but you just do this outside somehow, and you get airdropped or something.
Yeah. In the current system where we have right now, we don't allow for payments to
not us, but I mean I do expect that our project teams might benefit from this, and some of them might also
they have their own systems. Yeah, that's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. All right. I think that's it then.
Cool. All right. I'll see you later.
1 hour early. Yeah, cool. Later or on Monday or something. Yeah.
I'm just literally checking out a webcam. There are kites.
Whoa!
There's kites.
That's awesome.
Doesn't actually look very good though, and it's an hour away.
A bit cloudy, but
bit cloudy. I'm trying to work out how big the kites are.
Nice.
Maybe I'll decide in a minute. I need a poo first.
All right. Cool.
I'll see you later.
Enjoy your day. See you soon. Thanks so much. That was very cool.
Dude,
Excited for next week.
Great fun. Thank you. Bye.